Welcome back, everyone. You're watching the training week from March 31st, where the weekly focus transitioned to more routine training. After catching my dream Pagan Coleman connection, I now have to start thinking about preparing for our competitive season, the first competition of which will be the World Championships trial for this year. And today we're going to talk about some ideas I have around how I'm going to tailor-make my training from here on out. Up until now, it's obviously been just nothing but Pagan Coleman and everything else in the background. But today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the plans from here on out. Haven't done the introduction in a while, so if you're new here, welcome. My name is Misha and I love gymnastics, and here I'm sharing all of my adventures in the last 4 or 5 years. It's been around that long, I can't believe it. And you can see literally every single meaningful turn that I've taken in that amount of time, including every competition, build-up, domestic, international, all of it is all here for reference. Last week I spoke about how Stalder and endos come very difficult for me, and I lose my core strength specifically for that skill real quick. So I'm increasing the numbers of just those simple circles. Not going to rush into it because Stalder's stained the shoulder. So to start, how am I going to construct the new training week now that the Pagan Coleman adventure comes to an end? And I wouldn't say it comes to an end as I almost fly off that bar. Man, that was like a one-handed catch pretty much. Can't believe I held on to that. So I wouldn't say the Pagan Coleman adventure is finished. Now it's going to be all about cleaning that Pagan up, and as decent as those were, if you slow it down and look only at my legs, you'll see that upon kick out and that transition from kick out to catch, the legs kind of split. And I'm obsessed with perfection these days. I want it to be pitch perfect all the way through the knees to the toes, everything touching together. And a part of the reason for that is because I can't accept the fact that I'm scared and flustered in the air. I want to make it so that I'm not scared and flustered, so that I trust myself fully and just keep those legs together. But inevitably these skills are dangerous, so there's always going to be a certain amount of uncertainty and adrenaline, which increases the chances of getting flustered. But to minimize that and to enjoy it more. Enjoy looking up at that bar, seeing how far it is, and then reaching out to grab it. It's such a thrill. And you enjoy it with when there's like a pad slide for safety and things like that. But I want to see if I can get to that confidence level of pad, no pad, hard, soft, doesn't matter. Getting a thrill and a good feeling out of all of it. Was that a routine? That was the first routine, full set all the way through. Pretty messy form on the giant Diami, but like we spoke in the past, as a sixth skill, that's going to be tough. And the first checkpoint is just to get it done. Another checkpoint is doing some extra dismounts and throwing some double back fulls after the routine. And you might notice that it's a bit lower than usual. I'm really hitting face first, but of course after a whole set, bod is pretty exhausted. Body is pretty exhausted, so the dismounts are going to be a little bit worse. And the first step is just to do some, even after the fatigue of a full routine. But anyway, where were we? So we're cleaning up the Pagan, and the Pagan Coleman adventure is not going to be done just yet. If I can get to the point where the Pagan is, pretty much all the time clean, if I catch good, I'm going to start sending the Coleman again, because to do that connection clean would be a secondary dream. That would be so thrilling, just to have a clip of that connection done well, cleanly. Not the mess that I did on my first catch, but stoked regardless. Stoked to even have been able to catch it at all. So in terms of how I'm going to structure the week, so I'm thinking, Maris was kind of the next play goal, the next thing to try to see if I could catch it cleaner than I did that one fateful day a few years ago. But before we talk about that, fam, look at that. I wasn't certain whether I would ever swing to handstand again. And yeah, it was a messy, bent armed swing, but the way it feels, it hurt a little bit for a day or so after it, nothing major. So soon maybe I'll go for the lock arm again, and man, I might be able to giant on rings once again. So exciting times. I was honestly really happy to have done that. Connecting, still kind of gearing my bearings, not exactly fully committed to catching, just feeling, trying to make the legs together. You'll notice I increased the reps of stoop half this week. I think I even added a whole nother session of stoop halves. Usually I try not to do them every single day because it is a pretty big load on the back. Yeah, but you see that I'm kind of tapping, pushing off. Legs are still splitting on that stoop half, but less of that full splits that I used to do. When I send it a bit early, you remember that I used to go pretty much into like a full, right leg splits or left leg splits, I can't even tell, but the leg separation there is a bit smaller, and the separation is a compensation for being sideways. If I don't separate, I'll probably land right on the bar. I'll have a quick talk about this, because I wanted to maintain something towards that Pagan Coleman, so I thought I'd do some standing front halves to Coleman, but I spoke last week, there's these strange little areas where the shoulder still kinks and tweaks out, and pushing down on the bar and quickly standing up, man, it went from 0 to 100, like intense sharp pain. But again, nothing serious, because I was able to do Coleman's from the top change right after. So just these very specific little areas that just still sting. And it doesn't necessarily mean that something is drastically wrong. The shoulder joint, we have so many different muscles and tendons that are in that area. So if something is sitting a little bit off, stoked I made that first catch in there. I made the save of the century over here, fam. I think it was a turn after this. But if something is a little bit off, it can kind of, roll off the bone, or just pinches. So I'm not too concerned about it. It's just a sign that there's more kinks to still get out of that left shoulder. But man, when I did that, I was like, okay, that's it. You are dead. These legs are gonna be just bruised on the bar. You're about to slam into it. And then next minute, I'm safely on the ground without even touching the bar. Don't know how I made that save. The cat instincts kicked in. But I keep on getting distracted. So, the new idea for how I'm going to structure the week. I'll continue to reserve the Tuesdays for Pagan training, and eventually start the Pagan Coleman up again on the Tuesdays. So you'll see the commitment to legs there is quite good. Then on Fridays, I'm going to start the Maris training. So you see there, the first few Marises were sent, and it's much like it was after that 2022 Liverpool World Championships. Really similar starting point. First hand on the bar right away, but the second hand miles and miles. So do the Fridays, reserve the Fridays for the Maris training. Now I filmed this vault from this angle because you can't tell in the other two clips, but I started veering off to the side a lot. So I wanted to see what was going on, and like they always say, once you start filming from the direction that you want to see, all of a sudden the mistake goes away. So I couldn't actually find out what was going wrong. boy, that was probably one of the best stoop halves to date. Probably one of the best ones to date. And on Saturday, I actually saluted. Decided to put myself under the pressure. Saluted a routine. And I missed this one. Man, it was a decent day for stoop halves. That's some of my best work so far. Missed the pike, but tried again and went all the way through. So for now, still just not doing the Zoli Min and the Stalder. Zoli Min, I'm just doing those one arm Higgins swings, and Stalder, like I said, I'm just doing those circles, and I'll probably wait another 4 to 8 weeks before trying the Zoli Min because it is on the surgery shoulder. But compared to the routine I did the other week, I added an extra Gaylord tap. We can call it a pagan tap because there's a full speed one. And I added a Kovacs tap. So that's like an addition of another 4 giants, I suppose. And still got through all the way. So fitness is going good. And did a secondary P-bar routine. It wasn't as good as the Tuesday one. Plus a first half. So then for Mondays and Saturdays would be the only other day to decide on. And I reckon, Mondays I'll keep as I've been doing, work on that stoop half and get better and better at the Gaylord too. There's still a couple of things I need to fix, like, make my feet together consistent on the catch. Bit of a slip there. I'm noticing that when I first started doing the tuck Gaylord 2, I'd have a nice and straight kick out, but now as I'm catching more, I'm a bit piked in my catch, so got to keep those hips open to make a nice finessed look and spot the bar better. So Mondays and Saturdays probably reserved for that stoop half Gaylord 2 with some dismounts, and Saturdays, of course, trying to get through as much of that routine as possible. Yeah, a bit of a mess there, but this is the first week where we hit 2 routines in 1 week. Yeah, a bit scruffy on the legs there, but to be honest, that's not too bad. And I think I overcooked it. Yes, I did. Overcooked it. And then another first half. So this was the 3rd week of training, which means the following week was light. And I don't do much in the light weeks, and I think something extra and special for the Patreon. I think I'll upload like my light training weeks just to the Patreon. Otherwise it'll just be, like a 5 to 10 minute, probably more like a 5-minute video, which is a bit short for the usual training week videos. So yeah, the next week was light, so don't expect much there, and I'm gonna start things up again next week. Pommel horse also coming along in halves. Gonna have to make that D-flop cleaner, and boy am I looking forward to falling all over the show trying to compete that D-flop if I do decide to compete horse this year. That's gonna be a big guessing game. So I reckon that's how I'm gonna structure my week for now. I think that's a fairly good way to do it. Tuesday, continue the pagan towards Pagan Coleman. So I'm maintaining that because maybe I can catch it again one day. But use the Friday to work towards that next goal that I had, which was to catch Maris once again, but clean. Clean meaning keep those legs glued together. It just looks so much cooler now when I see myself doing the releases with legs together. It's so satisfying to watch. And that's what I'm after. And then after Maris, if it happens, Kudinov 2 fam, Kudinov 2, you know it. So this week we're going to finish with another swing to handstand on rings. Once again, over the moon, to be honest. Like, that's probably the highlight of my week. The most joy from this week probably came from just swinging to handstand on rings. And as promised last week, we're going to take a look at 2 of the most badass major connections ever been done on the high bar. The first of which, coming up right after this, Koji Uematsu. Koji Uematsu, top qualifier at the 2010 World Championships on high bar, but unfortunately had a fall in the finals, preventing him from winning gold. But check this out, fam. This is a comp, a pikey layout, a tuck, Coleman tucked Gaylord 2. The only time 4 has ever been attempted at a competition, and he actually went and got it. Fam, imagine just saluting, knowing this is what the plan is. It's insane. Insane. So he's the only one that's competed 4. Even the king of connections, Epke Zonderland, had only competed 3, but we're about to see a clip of him do 5. A clip of him do 5. It is a very grainy clip, filmed from someone's cell phone, probably from the viewing gallery. And Kassiner, Kovacs, layout Kovacs, Coleman, layout Gaylord 2. Fam, what the heck? That is insanity. Insanity. But the question is, if you know you're gonna do this, why wouldn't you set up a full HD camera to the side? Like, maybe he did, but he just didn't put it anywhere. But I want to ask Epke if he has an HD version of this connection, because this is something that might never be repeated in the history of, or in the future of, our gymnastics world. So thanks for watching. All the best. Till next time.